Alrighty everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all having a happy Thursday so far, and as we approach Memorial Day weekend, there's a lot of things that have been going on between Disney and Lucasfilm to really further enhance the Star Wars franchise, and not just that, but they are also fine-tuning the roadmap and the current slate of Star Wars TV shows and movies that are set to be further announced, by the way, at this year's D23 event. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and without wasting too much of your time, let's get right into the subject and what's going on here. So, what's really interesting about Jon, Dave, Tony Gilroy, and George Lucas, which by the way are making up this quote-unquote dream team now, in an attempt to turn Star Wars around, right? To turn the tide or to course correct the franchise. And what's so inspiring about this is that they not only have people like Timothy Zahn on board as an advisor for Ahsoka Season 1 and 2, but also for the Dave Filoni Star Wars movie, which by the way is going to be heavily inspired by the Thrawn trilogy and aspects of Heir to the Empire. Now what's great about this is exactly what Jon Favreau recently approved and was able to authorize by Disney CEO Bob Iger, who allowed this to all happen, was by really regulating the biggest project of all behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm that's really going to set things in motion for the upcoming Star Wars movie by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Now, with that being all put out there and said, what's even all the more interesting about this is exactly what Favreau recently did that I believe is really going to set things in motion. Now, with both Jon and Dave preparing to develop numerous Star Wars projects to turn the tide of Disney Star Wars, one of the biggest movies that Favreau recently made was by firing an entire team over at Lucasfilm. And the other side to this story that adds that the development involves Favreau had the liberty of firing an entire team over at Lucasfilm and employees that was working on both Mando Season 4 and a new mystery series that would serve as a follow-up. This team was dedicated and more loyal to Kathleen Kennedy's vision of Star Wars. The main reasoning behind Favreau's actions of firing this team and handling the pre-production of Mando 4 that was authorized by Bob Iger had much to do with the fact that they were all standing against Favreau's concept, of course, and vision of including Luke Skywalker heavily into the story of Mando Season 4 that many of the concept artists and other creative departments at Lucasfilm that had members and employees involved in the fourth installment believed that this was going to tarnish the brand and hence impacting their careers negatively. So let me just stop here quickly for one moment. Now, obviously, that's a very flawed point of view from the Lucasfilm employees that are loyal to Kathleen Kennedy. So they felt that by focusing on Luke in Mando Season 4, that it was going to literally tarnish their careers and that it was going to tarnish the brand. I highly doubt that. I feel that if anything, it's going to add more to the story. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Jon and Dave, they have a big plan to essentially reset the Mandalorian series with 4. And that's why it ended the way that it did with Season 3. So they had a last-minute change that during principal photography, they were able to do what they wanted to do at the very last, shot. And that actual last shot, where they set things up for Din Djarin and Grogu and their adventures and how it's going to reset and really bring it back down to the basics and rebuilding it from there. And I kind of like that, the fact that they are now on their own. Kathleen Kennedy has no input on Mando 4, nor does she have any input, by the way, on Star Wars Ahsoka Season 1 and 2. So this August is going to be a real big change. But what's interesting enough is exactly why Favreau really felt that he needed to do this by firing an entire team of Lucasfilm employees and team members that were dedicated to Mando Season 4 is because they were loyal to Kathleen Kennedy. Now, these are the same exact employees, by the way, that are reportedly against Luke Skywalker and just do not like his character. These are the same employees that reportedly had a lot of pictures of Luke with a big, fat red X mark on his face that were stamped to cubicles. In fact, one of them a couple years ago, I don't know if you guys remember this, were accidentally shown on the Star Wars show. I'll try to remember to put an image up here for that actual moment. But that's just one prime example of it being accidentally caught on camera. Reportedly, there's a lot of other, photos of Luke with a big fat X on his face across Lucasfilm headquarters, and it's not a big surprise. So, on top of this, they were 100% against Favreau's vision and Filoni's on focusing on Luke and Grogu again for Mando 4, where they have a plan to give them a big reunion and other scenes for Luke that are mapped out. This comes also as no surprise after Lucasfilm headquarters at one time had pictures of Luke with a big X written on his face on many of the cubicles. That team has now been fired and moved to the Acolyte team, or have been let go from Lucasfilm altogether entirely, and are being replaced with more passionately driven creators to handle the 4th season of Mando, which is likely to now be delayed, unfortunately, due to the writer's strike and this big move. Getting new creators on board is now creating a short but worthwhile setback to ensure a quality-driven story. Now again, guys, like I say, the reason why Favreau has so much power now at Lucasfilm, along with Filoni, is because they got a lot of promotions over at Lucasfilm, all thanks to Bob Iger. And as much as I do not like Bob Iger, I remain a big skeptic of him to this day. Basically what happened with the Star Wars Hotel, aka Galactic Star Cruiser, and how he was the major player in that failure. But I gotta give him some credit for even allowing Jon and Dave to do what they want to do with Mando 4, Ahsoka, and more, and how he has given them a lot of control over at Lucasfilm, a lot of privileges at the company that really is giving us, the fans, a chance to see exactly where that could go. So I do have to give him some kind of credit there, but at the same exact time, I'm not really a fan of Bob Iger. I still am not to this day. I'm not one that really, is an advocate of his actions with the Disney parks or anything related to Star Wars before in the past. So, look, I've said this numerous times. I think that Jon and Dave are our future for Star Wars as long as they have the freedom and control, in which they do now. Kathleen Kennedy is not on board of Ahsoka. Never was, by the way. This was all Dave Filoni purely. She left it all up to him. She was instructed by Disney to not interfere with that and to only focus on Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. And so I think that this August, you're going to have a big potential turnaround and a kickstart of the momentum of what Star Wars really is, and getting back down to that pure excitement for fans to look forward to what's next. And again, I think what's even greater is that it's going to honor Ray Stevenson and his character Baylan Skoll and his performance, and that's all the more reason to love this show as well, is because it's going to be one of his last big roles, in the overall sphere of Marvel, Star Wars, etc. So, anyways, guys, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.